Good morning, fourth graders. For this math lesson today, we will be talking about estimation and mental math. These things are going to help us a little when we're talking about adding multi-digit numbers. Our goals for today are to explore how we adjust an estimated total to find an exact total. We're going to add numbers mentally and use estimation to determine if a number is reasonable. So the words we're going to use and when we're talking about our math are estimate, which is a close answer, rounding, which is changing a number to make it simpler, exact, which is the precise or correct answer, and reasonable. Does this make sense? So firstly, we're going to talk about rounding and adjusting. So we can use rounding to estimate a total. And then we can adjust our estimated total to find the exact total. Remember that estimating is to get a close answer. And what have we learned about rounding? We've learned that it has to do with place value, and we change a number to the place we're being asked to round to. We're making a number simpler by rounding it to the nearest place that we're being asked to round to. And we use nice or pushy neighbors to help round. We look to that number to the right of the place we're being asked to round to. And the closest place value, we might be asked to round to the thousands place, or the hundreds place, or the tens place, or the 10,000s place. And the numbers that we round to, the place that we round to, all the numbers after that have zeros. So we're kind of simplifying the numbers. So this is what we've already learned about rounding. So once we have rounded a number, we can kind of estimate a total, and then we can adjust that to get the exact total, which is the precise answer. So let's do an example together to demonstrate what I mean. So the best-selling fruits at Joy's Fruit Shack are peaches and bananas. During 1 month, Joy sold 397 peaches and 412 bananas. About how many peaches and bananas did she sell? So about means an estimate, so it's a kind of a close answer. Well, if we look at 397 peaches, we would round and say that's about 400 peaches, because if we look to the 9, which is the neighbor of the 3, we're rounding to the greatest place, that would be 400, okay? So about 400 peaches. And if we look at the 412 bananas, if we round to the greatest place, the neighbor to the right of the 4 is a 1, which is a nice neighbor. So it's going to keep the 4 the same. So around about 400 peaches and about 400 bananas, which is about 800 peaches and bananas. Okay. So that's a kind of an estimate. We're rounding to make an estimate to say about how many. Now let's figure out exactly how many peaches and bananas Joy sold. And we're just going to adjust our estimates. So if we said 400 peaches, but actually there was 397, then we need to take 3 off our total, because we said 400, which is 3 more than there really was. And we said 400 bananas, but actually there were 412. So we need to add 12 to our total, because now we're adjusting. So actually there were exactly 809 peaches and bananas that Joy sold, because 400 peaches, like we estimated, was 3 extra, and 400 bananas was 12 too few. So the exact answer is 800 minus 3 plus 12, which is 809. So you can see how we made an estimate by rounding, and then we adjusted to get the exact answer. Okay, another thing we're talking about today is how we can use some mental math to figure out some easy combinations when we're adding. So if I had this equation, 243 plus 274 plus 252 plus 231, and I looked at that, I could do the usual algorithm that we've been learning about regrouping numbers above. Or there's another way I could kind of just do some things mentally to figure out, okay, I know some I know how some numbers kind of add together in my head. So one way I could do this is just look at the ones and just think 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. Okay, I add those up in my head and I know that's 10. So there's 10 ones. Okay, then I might look at the tens and say, well, actually, if I look at those numbers that are left, there's like 24 tens, 27 tens, 25 tens, and 23 tens, which we know is 240 and 270 and 250 and 230. And when I look at that, there's an easy combination I can already see, because I can see 270 and 230, and I know that that's 500, because 70 plus 30 makes 100. And then the two 200s, that's 400, 400 and 100, that's 500. So that seems pretty straightforward to me, that in the tens I've actually got 500 plus 240 plus 250. So I can just do that in my head and figure out some easy combinations. Remember that you have learned before about the commutative and associative properties of addition, which means it doesn't matter what order you add things up, the sum is still going to be the same. So it doesn't matter if I add these before I add these ones. Okay, the order doesn't matter. So let's add our tens and our ones. So if I've got 500 plus 240 plus 250 plus 10, our 10 came from the ones, I can see another easy combination here. 240 plus 10, 240 plus 10 is 250. So then I've got 250 plus 250 plus 500. Okay, see another easy combination here? 250 plus 250 is 500. So what I can figure out, just in my head, is that the total here is 1,000. Because I've just taken some combinations that I already can do in my head, and I'm figuring out some easy combinations to help me figure out the total answer in my head. So there are some practice activities in your on your activity page today, where you get to practice this and look at some equations and think, are there some combinations I already know? Like you might look at this and think, oh, 3 plus 4, I already know that's 7, and 2 and 1 is 3, and 7 and 3 is 10. So you've already made some connections about some easy combinations for adding. So keep that in mind. This can help when you're doing your multi-digit addition. The last thing I want to talk about really quickly is reasonable answers, which is also has to do with estimating and rounding. So say you had to solve this problem, 3,642 plus 7,693. Now I'll just pause. You can stop and work this out yourself. Okay, so you should have probably figured out that it's 11,335. Okay, so this is what you might have figured out. Okay, so how could we estimate to check that the answer is reasonable? Because these are really big numbers, and sometimes it can get confusing when we're working with big numbers. I mean, you now know numbers up to the 1 millionth place, right? So sometimes we look at an answer and we're like, is that right? Did I do that right? So let's estimate to check if the answer is reasonable. So we could round each addend to the greatest place. And these are both numbers in the thousand. So if I just round this to the nearest thousand, got 3,642. So the 6 will round this up to 4,000. So 4,000 plus, okay, let's round the 7,693 to the greatest place. I'm looking at the neighbor to the right of the 7. It's a 6, which is a pushy neighbor. So this is going to be rounded up to 8,000. So 4,000 plus 8,000 is 12,000. Is 12,000 pretty close to 11,335? Yeah. So this answer is reasonable. We say, oh yeah, I probably did get this right because it's pretty close to 12,000, which is what I rounded up to. So we can estimate to check that our answer is reasonable. If this answer that we got was 6,812, we'd be like, oh no, that's really different to this. I need to go back and rework my problem. So there's kind of a way that we can check our work. For today, you need to work on activity pages 19 and 20 in your math packet. This questions 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are where you get to mentally do some of those addition problems where you get to see if there's any easy combinations. And the rest of them, the first few questions are about estimating. And of course, we did questions 1 and 2 together with the peaches and bananas. There are a couple of further activities that your teacher may want to do with you if there's time on these following slides, but your job first up is to do activities pages 19 and 20.